Shalom, family. This is Yuda. Welcome back to the second Exodus, part 2. Before I get into this lesson, I want to take a minute to give praise and honor to our Creator. And I would like to say that, I'd like to explain why I will specifically refer to him as the Creator. I will no longer call him Yahuwah, the Most High, or any other name, since the fact remains that all that does is create arguments between each and every one of us, especially those who call themselves teachers. And the reason I say that, if you just take a look at all the arguments over what is the real name, to me that's absolute proof that nobody really knows for sure. But the one thing that we do know for sure is he is the Creator. And I'd like to talk about something else that's been on my mind a lot in the last few days. And it is also concerning the second Exodus. It's for the last, I think, 3 days, I've had this heaviness in my spirit concerning the second Exodus. And it came to my realization that I believe the Creator left a clue regarding the second Exodus in the book of Exodus. And that clue was the Passover. And the fact of Malachi 3 and 6 specifically says that he does not change. So that led me to believe that what my spirit was trying to reveal to me is this coming second Exodus will happen during or after, right after the Passover. That's the way it happened the first time. And I sincerely believe it will happen the same way the second time. Another thing I'd like to mention is I also feel in my spirit that calling on the name or calling the people by the name Israel is also a problem. I can't really get into all the details. I'm still working on the proof. But let me give you just a brief scenario of the reason I feel like that. When I was looking at the gods of Egypt, I suddenly realized that Isis, which was the goddess of Egypt, and Ra, who was the sun god of Egypt, and El, the god of Canaan. Now, as strange as it might seem, when you take Isis, Ra, and El and put them together, you have Israel. Now, I'm not asking anybody to agree with me or to accept my theory, and that's what it is at this point. All I'm saying is, when I looked at that, it made perfect sense. After all, we know that our enemy is out to betray us, deceive us, and mislead us. And they've been doing a pretty good job, especially when it comes to divide and conquer. We are probably the most divided people on the planet. So I won't be referring to my people, my family, as Israel. So when you hear me use the term Hebrew, I'm including the entire 12 tribes. That includes especially the lost, so-called lost 10 tribes. So no more Israel for me. I did a video a few years ago where I made a strong point on that name connected to the Creator. So I'm going to go back through my videos and find that lesson and delete it. So lately, I have been feeling like I'm almost sure that he's dealing with me in some kind of way. So anyway, the second Exodus, part 2. And remember, you really need to be focused every year because we don't know what Passover, in other words, which year this is going to happen. But I'm almost 100% sure it will be right after Passover. So it didn't happen this year, so it's still in the future. Second Exodus, part 2. It has long been observed that about 1/3 of the Bible is prophecy. And the many of those prophecies have not yet been fulfilled. In addition, nearly all of those unfulfilled prophecies pertain to the descendants of Abraham in general and Jacob. And that's another name that I'm not going to pronounce this way. And the reason for that is the Hebrew alphabet does not contain a letter J. So that name is false also. Now, in the Bible where it says that the Creator changed Jacob's name to Israel, I sincerely believe that is an infiltration. And I just gave you my reason for that belief. I don't believe that happened. I believe that our enemy, which gave us this book, is behind that. That's who changed the name, not the Creator. So Jacob in particular, and to other nations and entities only as they encounter the descendants of the patriarchs. Understanding the history and the future of descendants of Jacob is paramount to understanding the rest of the Bible. In particular, grasping what the Creator says will happen to these people allows us to make sense of this world's seemingly incomprehensible events. As Proverbs 29 and 18 notes, where there is no vision, the people will perish. But the Creator has given some of us a vision of where current events are leading and what will soon happen to the nation of the Hebrews that have been scattered around the globe. Again, Proverbs 29 and 18 states, where there is no vision, the people cast off restraint. But blessed is he who keeps the law. This refers to a lack of prophetic revelation or divine guidance, where people are not aware of the Creator's will or purpose for their lives and society. Historically, after the death of Solomon in year 931 BC, the kingdom of the Hebrews split into two separate kingdoms. The northern 10 tribes retained the name, they say, Israel. Okay, I know this is kind of heavy, and like I said, I'm still working on the details of this, looking for an explanation. But for the most part, as of right now, I'm staying away from this Israel until I have more solid proof. So for the time being, I'm going to refer to these lost, so-called lost 10 tribes as Hebrews 2. Establishing their capital at Samaria, the southern tribes, and I don't believe Judah, I believe Yehuda and Benjamin, along with part of Levi. They became known simply as Yehuda. And its people known today by most as Jews. Again, there is no J in the Hebrew alphabet. 2 Kings chapter 16, verses 5 to 6. Continuing to be ruled by the royal line of David from the capital of the city of Jerusalem. 2 Kings chapter 16, verses 5 to 6. Reason, king of Aram, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of the Hebrews, besieged King Ahaz of Yehuda, but failed to conquer him. At that time, Rezin recovered Elath, or Aram, driving out the people of Yehuda and allowing Edomites to settle there. And they're still there to this day. 200 years after this national division, the northern 10 tribes were in a terminal state of wickedness and rebellion. Idolatry was widespread. Pagan religious practices from the surrounding cultures were common and celebrated. The Creator's law was trampled underfoot, and the Creator himself was scoffed at, much as in today's Western culture. The Creator's prophets' warning of the Hebrews' destruction and subjugation were invariably ignored, mocked, or killed. Around 722 BC, the Creator calls Assyria to subdue the Hebrews and enslave the people. The Assyrians deported the population from its homeland in Canaan to the southern shores of the Caspian Sea in what is today Iran. Again, 2 Kings chapter 17, verses 5 to 6. The northern kingdom of the Hebrews thus passed from the view of all but the most obscure histories, becoming known as the lost 10 tribes. 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 5 to 6. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Hebrews away into Assyria and placed them in Hala and in Harbor by the river of Gozan and in the cities of Medes. The Hebrews, the southern kingdom of Yehuda, followed the same course shortly after. With exceptions, the kings of Yehuda proved more corrupt than the Hebrews' kings. I know this is complicated. I know it can be confusing. But I feel in my spirit that I must separate that name, Israel. And again, let me just demonstrate something for you. Let me show you why. Let me show you why I don't want to do this. Okay? Isis, Ra, El. I have to show you this. This is the reason I'm having this problem. want to enlarge this so that it's easily seen. This is the reason I have a problem with this name. Because if you remove these two letters, you have Israel. I hope this makes sense to you guys. This is really bothering me because how can you overlook this? How can you not suspect this? We're dealing with a very clever enemy, far more clever than any of us. So we can't afford to close the eyes to this stuff. We have to pay attention. Something is not right. So the Hebrews, the southern kingdom of Yehuda, followed the same course shortly after, with few exceptions. The kings of Yehuda proved more corrupt than than the Hebrew kings. The Hebrews set the pace into idolatry, and Yehuda enthusiastically followed. Ezekiel chapter 16, verses 45 to 52. As with the Hebrews, the Creator sent prophets to Yehuda to warn her of destruction if she failed to repent. She refused. Between 604 and 585 BC, the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar carried the population of Yehuda to Babylon. 2 Kings chapter 24 and verse 14. Later, he totally destroyed Jerusalem, temple and all, and carried away captive the rest of the people. 2 Kings chapter 25, verse 11. Both kingdoms, having turned from their covenant with the Creator, earned the penalty of national captivity. Now, reverse migration. After 70 years in Babylon captivity, the Yehudas began returning to Canaan. Under Ezra and Nehemiah, the wall around Jerusalem was rebuilt and the temple was restored under Zerubbabel and Joshua or Yahshua. However, the northern 10 tribes of the Hebrews never returned. After a long sojourn in and around the areas of their captivity, they migrated north and west into the European continent. So for those of you that insist that the European countries, mainly America, is your homeland, this should clear that up, because you were never always there. You migrated there, and that's a whole nother history. So yeah, when Columbus and the rest of these so-called pilgrims that so-called discovered America, yes, you were there, but you were not always there. As the scripture says, they eventually migrated west, north and west, into the European continent, eventually spreading from there into the United States, Canada, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. However, this migration of the Hebrews will reverse. It's going to go back the same way it came. It will reverse in the days ahead. The Bible shows in many prophecies that a second Exodus will definitely occur, and the Creator's people will return to the land promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, the first Exodus, when the Creator brought the children of the Hebrews out from Egypt, is a defining event for the Hebrews' Passover. The days of unleavened bread and even Pentecost all commemorate the Creator's sovereignty, providence, and grace in liberating his people. Deuteronomy chapter 16, verses 1 to 12. Yet, as remarkable as this movement of millions of people from a plundered Egypt to a bountiful Canaan was the second Exodus. Let me read that again. Yet, as remarkable and bountiful as the second Exodus was, as the first Exodus was, the second Exodus will be momentous, much more than that of the original first Exodus from Egypt. It will pale by comparison. This event will be the largest migration in recorded history. Therefore, the days are coming, says the Creator, that it shall be no more be said, the Lord lives, who brought up the children of the Hebrews from the land of Egypt. But the Creator lives, who brought up the children of the Hebrews from the land of the north, and from all the lands where he hath driven them. For I will bring them back into their land which I gave to their fathers. That's basically telling you that where it was once said that the Creator by his mighty hand brought up the people out of Egypt, this time the saying is going to change. It's not going to mention Egypt, but it's going to say the Creator lives, who brought up the children of Hebrews from the land of the north and from all the other lands where they've been driven. Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 14 to 15, and see also Jeremiah 23, verses 7 to 8, in Isaiah chapter 11, verses 11 to 12. The prophet also tells of this time when the Creator shall set his hand again, the second time, to recover the remnant. It won't be a whole lot, at least not in comparison. The numbers are going to be huge, but in comparison to the total population of the Hebrews today, it will be considered a remnant. So there's billions of us. He will set up a banner for the nations. I sincerely believe what's happening in Burkina Faso is that banner. Now there's a lot of extra details that would go into explaining all that, which I can't do right now. But that is something that you cannot ignore. This is something that I can say never happened in our history. There's been attempts, but nobody's ever made it as far as this Ibrahim Traore. So I'm definitely feeling pretty sure that that was the banner that was set up for the nations, because believe me, all the nations have noticed him. And will assemble the outcast of the Hebrews and gather together the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth. The Creator tells Jeremiah, in those days the house of Judah shall walk with the house of the Hebrews, and they shall become together out of the land of the north to the land that I have given as an inheritance to your fathers. Now, I believe that when Yehuda is mentioned, and then the house of what they want us to say is Israel, I believe that's Benjamin. I believe that's Benjamin because you remember the scripture says they will become one stick. So, and they shall come together out of the land of the north to the land that I've given as an inheritance to your fathers. Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 18. During the first Exodus, a few million Hebrews left Egypt and headed for the land of Canaan. Have y'all ever wondered why all the other names of all the other nations that are referred to in Scripture maintain their original identification? I mean, if you really research, you'll see that they maintain their identity as nations and people. But we didn't. Somebody changed ours, and this is another reason why I do not say Israel anymore. And y'all remember the example that I just showed you about Isis, Ra, and El. Those are three gods. The first two are Egyptian gods, and the last, El, is a Canaanite god. And those all three together make the name Israel. So during the first Exodus, a few million Hebrews left Egypt and headed for the land of Canaan, a relatively short distance away. Today, the Hebrews number in the hundreds of millions. I would go as far to say billions. And their current homelands are thousands of miles from Canaan. They cannot remigrate to the promised land as a single group, for their movements have left them in numerous countries around the globe. Only the sovereign Creator can orchestrate such a regathering. While some prophecies speak of the Hebrews returning from every compass point, Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 12, Isaiah chapter 43 verses 5 to 7, the Hebrews is most commonly foreseen returning from the north and the west of the promised land. Isaiah chapter 49 verse 12, Jeremiah chapter 3 verse 18, Jeremiah chapter 16 verse 15, Jeremiah chapter 23 verse 8, and Jeremiah chapter 31 verse 8, and Hosea chapter 11 and verse 10, Zechariah chapter 2 and verse 6, reversing the path of their migration thousands of years ago. Regathered in Zion. The prophet Isaiah gives numerous descriptions of how this exodus will take place, such as the individual attention that will be given, and it shall come to pass in that day you will be gathered one by one. O you children of the Hebrews. Isaiah chapter 27 and verse 12. He speaks of a highway for the remnant of his people who will be left from Assyria, as it was for the Hebrews in the day that he came up from the land of Egypt. Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 16. A similar road appears in Isaiah chapter 35, verses 8 to 10. A highway shall be there, and a road, and it shall be called the highway of holiness. The unclean shall not pass over it, but it shall be for others. Whoever walks the road, although a fool, shall not go astray. No lion shall be there, nor shall any ravenous beast go up on it. But the redeemed shall walk there, and the ransom of the Creator shall return, and come to Zion with singing, with everlasting joy of their heads, on their heads. They shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighing shall flee away. And see also Isaiah chapter 43, 16 to 21, and Isaiah 51, verses 10 to 11. Not all of Israel will be able to travel back by this highway of holiness. However, Isaiah chapter 60 and verse 8 and 9 ask, who are these who fly like a cloud? That's interesting. Who are these who fly like a cloud, and like doves to their roost? Surely the coastlands shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish will come first, to bring your sons from afar, their silver and their gold with them, to the name of the Creator your Father, and to the Holy One of the Hebrews, because he has glorified you. Isaiah chapter 66 and verse 20 describes this massive undertaking further. Then they shall bring all your brethren for an offering unto the Creator of all nations. I'm sorry, let me read that again. I got that wrong. Then they shall bring all your brethren for an offering to the Creator out of all nations, on horses and in chariots and in litters, on mules and on camels, to my holy mountain, Jerusalem, says the Creator. As the children of the Hebrews bring an offering in a clean vessel unto the house of the Creator. Jeremiah chapter 30 and 31 give a broad overview of what the Creator will do to bring back the Hebrews, and the rest of the tribe, and restore the promised land to them. This was not fulfilled in the 1940s, as we've been told. Remember those people that are in that so-called land, okay? The name Israel was never a land, and it was actually never in the Holy Book. So they not only made up the land, they made up the name too, because that's their prophecy. That's their way of fitting themselves into a prophecy that was meant for somebody else. Okay, this was not fulfilled in the 1940s, as we've been told. The prophecies regarding the second Exodus clearly speak of both the Yehuda and the Benjamins. Notice, for instance, Jeremiah chapter 30 and verses 1 to 3. The word that came to Jeremiah from the Creator, saying, thus speaks the Creator of the people, the Hebrews, saying, write in a book for yourself all the words that I have spoken to you. For behold, the days are coming, says the Creator, that I will bring back from captivity my people, the tribe of Benjamin and Yehuda, says the Creator. And I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. The Creator refers to both kingdoms here, the descendants of the northern kingdom, which was Benjamin, as well as the southern kingdom, which was Yehuda. The return of Benjamin will be a larger migration. However, neither the Hebrews or Benjamin nor Yehuda has possessed the land since the time of their respective captivities. After Yehuda was taken into captivity, Babylon ruled the promised land under Nebuchadnezzar. Babylon later fell into the Medo-Persian Empire, which then became sovereign over Jerusalem and the Promised Land. Because of their vassal status, the Jewish, so-called Jewish captives, that was the tribe of the Yehuda, that returned from Babylon had to ask permission from Cyrus and Darius, the Persian king, to rebuild the wall and the temple. The Yehudas enjoyed a measure of peace, but their freedom depended on the favor of the ruling Persian emperor. After Alexander the Great conquered Medo-Persia, the Greeks became the new overseers of the land of promise. The Yehudas under the Maccabees gained a measure of independence until Rome took control of this area. The Yehudas lived in the land and even worshipped in the Second Temple, but they didn't really possess the land because it was under Roman jurisdiction. Since the collapse of the Roman Empire, notwithstanding some temporary Crusader holdings, the Promised Land has been under the sway of various Arab and Muslim nations, notably the Ottoman Empire, down to the modern times. Even now, the state of the so-called Israel does not control all of the land. Jerusalem is a divided city, and the Israelis have not dared claim all of the Temple Mount for themselves. Now, y'all need to understand, do not inject yourselves into this, because this is also false. This is not talking about us. This is talking about them. They inserted this. How do I know this? Well, first of all, are you in Israel, this fake land? Are you there? No, you're not. So this could not possibly be talking to you. Now, if you are a uneducated scripture reader, you will read this right into your belief system, never questioning the validity. So let me just make this clear. This is not talking about you. When did we ever have a 6-day war in 1967? Us as a nation. It never happened. So who did happen? Who was these people? It was them. So now we got that clear. Because they know that it would result in an all-out war with the Muslims. Isn't that what we're seeing right now? I mean, it don't take a genius to figure this out. These people are going to battle with each other, and it's all because of their deceptions, their lies, and their tampering with the word of the Creator, all to betray, deceive, and lead us away from our true Creator. This is not you. Because they know that it would result in an all-out war with the Muslims, which it is. And besides that, they are not the true chosen people. Even though the modern-day Jews claimed a considerable amount of land when it declared statehood in 1948. Okay, let me give you a real brief history on that. The Rothschilds purchased land after going through years, I think it was like 3 to 5 years, that they negotiated or tried to negotiate the purchase of this land that's now called Israel. And there was a lot of obstacles in this period of negotiation, but they finally came to some kind of agreement. I don't remember exactly what it was, but then at that point, the Rothschilds were permitted to purchase that land. Right after that, this was in 1947, right after that, they started bringing in the Ashkenazis from different parts of the globe, placing them in that land, and that land was at that time, it was not called Israel. They named it in 1948. And there you have it. They're there today. Gaining even more during the 6-Day War, which we had nothing to do with, the ownership is endlessly argued because it's a well-known fact that they are imposters. The Yehudas is not truly sovereign yet. It does not yet possess the land. We're still scattered. So if we're scattered, how can we be there? How can they be us? So, but first, tribulation. Even though the Hebrews or Benjamin and Judah will ultimately be restored to the land of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They will first go through a time of tremendous tribulation and hardship. Y'all get ready. We're right at the door on that one. We're right at the door. As a matter of fact, it's already began. If you haven't noticed, there is going to be, and it's already started, a severe food shortage. Not the way you think, but because of contamination throughout the entire Western Hemisphere, mostly. GMOs, the spraying of what they call chemtrails in the air, which is poisoning everything. Excuse me, from your water to all your vegetations, your meats, you name it, everything. So this is the beginning of the tribulations. A lot of people haven't really felt that yet. So those people just kind of ignore. You know, it's kind of like the people next door to you, house burned down. Now, although you kind of sympathize with them, in the back of your mind, it wasn't you. So there is a little bit of light for you, even though your next door neighbor lost their home. You get what I'm saying? For thus says the Creator, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask now and see whether a man is ever in labor with child. So why do I see every man with his hand on his loins like a woman in labor, and all faces turn pale? Now, first of all, our faces cannot turn pale. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. And it is fine. It is the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Jeremiah chapter 30, verses 5 to 7. This is what must happen before the second Exodus. Notice that it is called Jacob's trouble, not Israel's trouble or Judah's trouble, but both houses will experience it. The Creator causes Jacob's descendants to be greatly troubled because of their sins. This time of unprecedented crisis, none is like it, corresponds to the time of great tribulations. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, for there will be a great distress in the land. Now, let me stop here and explain something. There are many people are claiming and teaching that this has come to pass and it will not happen again. It's sad that we have people who will not investigate to prove whether this is a valid truth or not. And it's unfortunate. But the truth is that was not the abomination of desolation that was spoken of in a multi-layered prophecy. It's going to happen again. And for example, in this prophecy that's in the book of Daniel, and again, it's multi-layered. It's speaking both at the time Daniel made this prophecy, it was a future prophecy that did come to pass. But Daniel also is talking about a future abomination of desolation. And the reason that I say that is because, number one, when this one happened, there was nobody that stood up in that temple on the altar and claimed to be God. That had to happen. And it didn't happen then, okay? So that should be enough to clear any misconceptions or confusion. That should be enough to clear that up. For there will be great distress in the land and wrath upon this people, and they will fall by the edge of the sword and be led away captive into all nations. Now, this also should prove that Daniel's prophecy was multi-layered. And Jerusalem will be trampled by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. Has that happened? No. And also during Daniel's prophecy, the people of the Hebrews were told that when they saw the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place, they were to do what? Flee into the mountains. That was for the people during this time that were, remember, the real Jerusalem was surrounded by mountains. All right? There are no mountains in this fake country called Israel today. So there are no mountains for you to flee to. And Jerusalem will be trampled by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. They are, how can I put this? I guess I can't figure out a better way to put it, so I'll just continue to read. This will not be the complete end of mankind. Jeremiah promises that Jacob will be saved out of his trouble, even though that day is great and like nothing we have seen before. It will not be the end of Jacob. Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 5 to 7 does not detail why that time is one of tribulation. The only clue we have in these verses is that the Creator compares it not just to a woman in labor, but to a man in labor. This is certainly an unusual symbol, but the picture of the sorrows and pains of labor and childbirth elsewhere helps us to understand what it points to. For example, Isaiah chapter 13, verses 6 to 8 prophesies, "Wail, for the day of the Creator is at hand. It will come as destruction from the Almighty. Therefore, all hands will be limp. Every man's heart will melt, and they will be afraid. Pains and sorrows will take hold of them. They will be in pain as a woman in childbirth. They will be amazed at one another. Their faces will be like flames." A similar illustration appears in Isaiah chapter 26, verses 16 to 18. The Creator in trouble, they have visited you. They have visited you. They poured out a prayer when your chastening was upon them. As a woman with child is in pain and cries out in her pains, when she draws near the time of her delivery, so have we been in your sight, O Creator. We have been with child, we have been in pain, we have, as it were, brought forth wind. We have not accomplished any deliverance in the earth, nor have the inhabitants of the world fallen. See also Isaiah chapter 66, verses 6 to 24, Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 31, Jeremiah chapter 13, verses 20 to 27, and Hosea chapter 13, verses 12 to 16, and Micah chapter 4, verses 9 and 10. Overall, the symbol is one of anguish, sorrow, intensity, great discomfort, and pain. The prophets contain scores of examples of the Creator's anger at the sins of his people. It's with good reason that the prophecies mention that only a remnant will return. Even though the descendants of Jacob will ultimately be saved. The percentage of the current hundreds of millions or billions of Hebrews and Yehudas who survived that trouble will no doubt be small. See Isaiah chapter 10, verses 20 to 21. However, in this illustration is interesting. When it applies to the Creator's enemies, the emphasis is clearly on the pain and anguish, sorrow, and fear of what is ahead. Jeremiah 49, verse 20 to 24. But when it refers to the Benjamites, as in Jeremiah chapter 30, there's always hope that the pain will be turned to joy, just as with a physical birth. Isaiah chapter 66, verses 8 to 9. It is painful, but a tremendous blessing is promised to come when it's all over. A hint of this hope appears in Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7. But the Jacob shall be saved out of it. The pain and the anguish will not end in total annihilation. For certain, a dear price will be paid in human lives. But the people of Jacob will survive and be blessed both physically and spiritually, as we shall see. So, y'all, I know that I took my time bringing this lesson, part 2. So let me tell you what's going on right now is our dear friend and beloved sister Teresa is still in the hospital, and her situation is fairly critical. Just a day or so ago, she was able to breathe on her own. When she went into the hospital, she flatlined, and I am under the understanding it was about 10 minutes, which we all know that the brain will inherit damage if there's no oxygen for more than 3 minutes. So there's a matter of white matter on her brains, which is not allowing her to wake up. I mean, she's functioning, her vitals are good, everything's good except for that. So I've been corresponding with the family back and forth, doing a lot of prayer. So I've been pretty tied up. And plus, like I mentioned before, I've been dealing with this thing about ISIS, Ra, and El. I feel so strongly about this. So I may be a little slow bring in part 3 because I really need to look deeper into this. But like I showed you guys up here, and I'd like for you, if there's anybody that can understand the reason for me bringing this up, I would like to have you do a little bit of research. Now, let me just type just below this. Well, right beside it. Okay, ISIS, Ra. I want y'all to help me out with this. I know you can see what I see. I know you can see what I see. There's something serious about this. We've been tricked, y'all, and there's no two ways to put this. And we need to start digging deep, deeper than we have been. So with that being said, I'll ask you guys to please lift up Sister Teresa in your prayers, that she makes a full recovery, and again join us on these lessons. And all praise and honor I give to the mighty Creator and Him alone. Shalom.